So today we're at the National Indoor Arena here in Abbottstown, and I'm going to be interviewing Kris from Really Good Fitness. So what's on today is the Fit for All Expo, organised by the Cara Centre. So it's an exhibition of all ways of integrating and including people with mental and intellectual disabilities and showing the exercises for everyone. So I'm going to show you a few clips of what's going on inside and then get straight into the interview.
Participate, and it's good for us. So
creating and working with leisure centres to help them make their leisure centres and fitness facilities more accessible to
I'd like to stay here today. It's an honour for me to be a patron of Cara. It's great to see the crowd here today. The only thing I'd say about this whole organisation in the coming months, today is a stepping stone for greater things down the line.
So it's a pleasure to be joined by Kris Saunders Stowe at the National Fit for All Expo. Thanks so much for giving up your time and chatting with me today, Kris.
Pleasure.
So for people who are not familiar with you, your background, would you like to give us a quick synopsis of basically who you are, what you do and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so I'm a fitness instructor, predominantly group exercise, and I run Really Good Fitness, which originally started as, believe it or not, a job for me to be able to function and take part in work, around my disability. It rapidly progressed to becoming a passion and moving into the group exercise side of things and events and everything else. It's far beyond what I ever anticipated it to be. But I came about it by accident. In 2012, I bumped into the Australian Paralympic team about a week before the Paralympics were due to happen. And just chatting to them, I thought I want to do something. I wasn't long using a chair at that point. And so I started wheelchair basketball. And that got me taking part in an activity where actually I felt no different to anybody else. Once everybody was in a chair, didn't make any difference what their abilities were, you were all sort of equal. And that just led me to think there's not enough focus on the fitness side. How do I improve my fitness? And seeing at local gyms, and then there was nothing that enticed me to go in or where I felt catered for. And I thought, why don't I look at doing this as a job? And that's where it started in 2012. Qualified as gym fitness instructor, and then I rapidly moved across then to doing group exercise, circuits, spin. But all of those qualifications I did to teach able-bodied clients. Okay. And then I took my disability qualification, and then I adapted everything I'd learned to tailor it towards disability.
And in terms of the class you do, because oftentimes with wheelchair users we tend to see an overemphasis on just the basic mobility and kind of physiotherapy-esque. Your class are very unique in both like their structure and intensity. What kind of exercise, what classes do you offer? What are the different types of classes and what do they involve?
Well, the main class that I started with was aerobics, so it's seated aerobics. But again, people's expectation of seated exercise is usually very, very gentle and tends to be quite patronising as well. I looked at it from myself as a wheelchair user, what I needed to maintain cardiovascular health. That was the most important thing and the biggest killer for wheelchair users. So that's where I started, and I focused on integrating daily techniques, so the way we actually push in the chair, posture, and then make it fun. It's got to be fun. But I put it on the same level as any mainstream sort of class, the same levels of intensity, the same adaptations. But I built the classes, just on that one level, and a plan to sort of progress from there. But my brain just kept going, and I sort of think, how can we do something different that isn't being done? And I saw the wheelchair training rollers, and I thought, that's quite good. What could I do with that? I could do a spin class. So instead of just using them as they use for court sports to keep the heart rate elevated or for training, I actually put a group exercise class together which used the same principles of indoor cycling, same very fast tempo, high intensity, and we run the only group class. We actually started the group class of wheel spin. And that class has been full since it first started. We can't offer enough rollers at all room in the studios now to actually accommodate everybody on that one. Circuits I ran for a while as well. That was a very popular class, but again, it was down to the costs of hiring studios and everything else on top. It made it a little bit more difficult. There's also a gentle mobility class. Again, we've brought it forwards, making it modern music and approach, but again, focusing around posture. It's more multi-ability, so we do leg work as well. But with most of my class, we aim in the middle, in the sense of what we think most people can do. And then there's adaptations for people who've got more ability or less ability, so everybody is equal. That gentle mobility class has proved very, very popular as well, and that's done through a couple of other centres as part of our local leisure group. And then there's other little ideas in the pipeline. I've done a version of step, a wheelchair step. It's very intense. Get a lot of blisters. But again, you've got to be pretty good and competent in your chair to be able to balance, to come up onto wheelies and up and down and things like that. So those are the main sort of classes that we're sort of running. But we're pretty much known for spin and the aerobics.
And it's very interesting because any coach, one of the big things is moulding the exercises to the people and assessing someone's ability. So as a coach with wheelchair use particularly, how do you adapt the exercise or assess it? Because I know in your classes you have people of varying degrees of both mobility and kind of competence. So how do you as a coach adapt then to the different situations?
I mean, I work slightly backwards in the sense that I usually get people to just take part. And then I observe them through that class, and then I'll look at how it might be better to adapt and talk to them afterwards. How did you find it? Did you feel that you got this particular benefit from it? And if not, we look at how we can adapt for that individual. So I try, other than what I really have to know at the very beginning, I try to avoid everything else with their disability and take the focus away from disability. So they are, just like anybody else, a person who is capable of doing whatever they're capable of doing. Again, any adaptation to me has got to have the same result. It's no good saying because you're not using your legs, you just sit there and do that with your arms. If they're not getting their heart rate elevated by it, it's not a good enough adaptation. And again, you have to be flexible with adaptation in the sense that not everybody's posture is exactly the same anyway, and encourage people to be themselves. So their interpretation of that move, and then giving any teaching points that adapt that move to a better technique or better long-term benefit.
And one of the things, I actually had the pleasure of experiencing one of your classes, using the wheelchair and experiencing, and one of the most enlightening things I think is, and people really don't know it, is that all wheelchairs are not created equal.
No.
And that's a big thing. Maybe you'd like to just go into the considerations and kind of, for any coach or personal trainer, maybe getting involved with people, wheelchair users, about the differences that the actual wheelchair itself can make.
I mean, if you're looking to go into it, the first thing I would say is try out different chairs. It's no good trying to teach people if you haven't sort of walked in their shoes. You've got to understand how a chair handles, full stop. They're all the same in certain areas. And then you can understand how your body functions, what areas you're using, what areas you can improve on. But as you say, with a chair, it's so different. The tip points are very different. The seat angles, the dump on the seat as to how deep it is at the back to front is very different. The widths as well, the fit, it needs to fit like a glove, a perfect shoe. If you're too small in your chair and you've got lots of room, you haven't got the control of that chair as if it's part of your body, which it needs to be. And again, the weight balance is very, very different as well. Longer fronts on chairs, some like this are quite short, and it changes how you can actually use that chair. Also, some people, depending on their abilities, if you've got spinal issues, then your balance is going to be very different. So the chair back's going to be different heights, and how you can handle that chair. Some have got anti-tips, so of course you can't tip the chair back and up as high. So there's so many different variations that you've got to think about. And unless you've tested out those areas and understand those differences, I think it's very difficult to then go out and teach somebody what to do. So my recommendation really is you've got to spend at least a day in a chair, understand it, understand how you're affected by it and the implications, but also try and focus those exercises around daily functional tasks. One thing I've experienced from a couple of people in the profession is wheelies, doing a wheelie in a wheelchair. They think it's dangerous and a health and safety issue. But if you think, how do we get up a curb? We do a wheelie, so we have to tip our front casters up and onto a curb. Therefore, it's a daily functional task. As soon as you see it for what it is, it's no longer as dangerous, and actually it's beneficial to encourage people to be able to do it safely. So you then realise how much you're using your core, or if, as I say, with the spine, how much then you've got to change your balance in your shoulders, and then you can put something together that actually will improve that person's life. But you've got to look at the chair as a part of them. It's an extension of their body. It's not an object that's just there. You know, and it's very important to see it as that.
And you mentioned health and safety there, because I know when you started this project, there was nothing like it before. You were the first person to kind of pioneer this. When you approached different health clubs and leisure centres wanting to host this, I know myself, any trainers here within Ireland, there's a few I could think of, if they were approached, the first thing that goes off in their head, too dangerous, safety issues, insurance. Were people hesitant or resistant to allow you to host these out of the leisure centres at the beginning?
Hosting them as my own organisation, no, because it was down to us to be responsible for it. But getting people to embrace the idea, yes, but believe it or not, it wasn't more from the health and safety point of view. It was actually the fact that they were too ignorant to how interesting it could be. There is this image of what exercise and disability is. It's very cotton wool, it's a very dowdy image. And I struggled to actually break that image, and the only way I could do was to say to a group of people, come and try the class, experience it yourself, and then tell me what you think of it. And most of them were amazed that it was completely different to what they expected. So that was one of the barriers. Then when you're looking at working for another organisation where you've got issues of class numbers and attendances and all those sorts of things, you have to break away from that protocol and think you're dealing with a client group that every single day could be completely different. They may not be able to come every week because of health reasons or carers or whatever issues affect that person in particular, and therefore you've got to be very, very flexible on that. The other thing as well from a wheelchair point of view is you need a lot of space. If you want to do sprinting and you want to be able to elevate the heart rate properly, you need to be able to move around freely. And running a circuit class in a tiny little studio, you can't achieve what you need to achieve, or if you do, you can only have 5-6 people in that room. And so therefore you've got to change the system we have in place within the leisure industry. But again, on the health and safety side, most of that is really fear or lack of understanding, because it isn't out there to actually educate people and give them the confidence to deal with those sorts of things. And I think that's also needs to change right from the top, even from the point of qualifications. Disability is often down there in the small print. If you don't feel capable of dealing with it, seek specialist advice. And in actual fact, we should cover disability in every single qualification. Whatever level it is, there should be how to adapt it, what to consider. And if we change the way we put our programs together in incorporating all abilities, and then put the adaptations in actual fact for able-bodied people or less able, then everybody's involved together.
Yeah, and I know within Britain you're obviously a great advocate for disability exercise and disability integration. Do you think there's still a huge stigmatism or ignorance around disability and exercise in kind of the general population and within the fitness industry?
I think there is, yeah. And again, it's about image, because most people don't want to get involved in it because it's not as appealing as mainstream exercise. But it's also, we don't view it with enough importance. Disability is that token thing that ticks a box. Yes, we offer one disability class a week. There's no real commitment, in my experience, to giving exactly what they give in those other classes. And understanding disability and medical conditions. A lady who I actually spoke to, she's happy for me to mention it, called Jan. She came to me because she had bone cancer in her leg when she was a child, and her actual ambition was to walk without a stick, and she couldn't get anywhere with people allowing her to do the things she wanted to do. When I met up with her and spoke to her, she'd also had a heart transplant five and a half years ago yesterday, and she was being stopped from doing so many things. She had to be supervised in the gym and all these other things. And I said to the centre, I said, look, she had a heart transplant to live, not to be put in a glass cabinet, And this woman was just wanting to get on and live and enjoy what she was doing. So we sort of negotiated and said, if she does this many sessions supervised, will you then let her come to my class? And that is what happened. She got signed off the LIFT programme. and she's doing fantastic. She goes down to the gym, I think it's 4 times a week now. She's hoping to come back to the classes because she's had a breather, because she's so busy and active. She walks without her stick now as well, which was her long-time achievement, which is fantastic. But again, on that same vein, I gave an example of a client and I explained medical conditions, and I said to the centre, would you allow that person to come to my classes? And they said no. Would you allow that person in the gym? No, but only for supervised. We went to all the things they wouldn't allow them to do, and I said, well, you've just sacked me. Because that person is me, and I'm doing everything I'm supposedly not supposed to be doing. I'm the healthiest I can be with all my conditions, and I'm actually getting on. I'm teaching 8-9 classes a week, doing all the events I do and everything else. And yet 7 years ago I didn't even go out of the house without a support worker, and I went out once a week to a doctor's appointment, and that was it. So you've got to look at disability as not being as scary as we actually think it is. It's just an adaptation that we need to look at and say, right, how can we allow this person now to re-engage and get into a healthy lifestyle and an independent one?
Yeah, and as a coach, obviously one of the greatest kind of things about being a coach is seeing progress and you making a direct impact in people's lives. And I can only imagine in this type of population, the magnitude of change is much greater. Like, it's not the typical gym goer who wants to lose a few pounds or look better in the mirror. This is actually impacting people on their daily life. So what kind of difference have you seen in people? How important is exercise to improving the quality of their life in general?
It's priceless. The people that come to my classes initially are not the same people that are attending them now. They come in with very poor confidence and self-esteem. They've probably got no social life because they rarely ever come out. And it's not because they don't want to come out, it's the fact that there aren't reasons to go to places. That you can't just go out the house, spend half an hour getting everything ready, getting your support or your taxi to turn up somewhere where you may not even get actually be allowed in to do anything. So to be embraced the minute you come through the door and to focus on somebody as a person rather than an actual disability makes a huge difference to them. There's then the social side, because they're meeting other people who've got similar experiences, or just to talk through how they deal with different issues. So you watch that confidence grow, but then you watch the physical changes. You watch the posture improve, their range of movement improve, the speed at which they actually move about is brilliant, and the fact they come in with a smile on their face. They're looking forward to it, which is rewarding. But some of the achievements, I've got one lady who has always wanted to be an athlete since she was a child. She had moderate level cerebral palsy, and she couldn't push herself in her wheelchair. Her one hand was completely tight, and she started coming to aerobics, and slowly you notice her arms would get a little bit higher, and she started to get a little bit more upright. And then she wanted to come to spin, and I said, you can't come to spin. I said, because you can't push your chair, you've got to open that hand. And it wasn't categorical, no, it was just, you can't at this moment in time. And she said, well, I want to. And I said, all right, if in 8 weeks you can open your thumb so you can grip your wheel, you can come to the cool down section. So just 10 minutes at the end, it was a start. Within 8 weeks, she got her thumb and finger out to about here from doing different stretches. She was putting her hand on her lap and pressing to get the stretches and everything. So she did that, and then she got earlier and earlier to spin. She's now been doing spin for nearly 3 years. She does the full class. And then 2 years ago, she took part in her first athletic event, which was a 1K sprint. She did it in just, I think it was 11 minutes, 8 seconds. And she did that at the age of 60. It's taken all that time to do that. And that, I was actually welling up, I got my eyes over it, because it was such an emotional journey. And those goals and achievements are the same for anybody regardless of ability. It's just a different time frame. The goals still have to be, measurable and over the correct time. They've still got to be smart, but the time frame is different. It might take a year or 2 years for one person to be able to open their hand or to lift a dumbbell. But lifting up a half kilo dumbbell could be lifting up your own drink and being independent at home, or being able to clean your teeth. Things actually are priceless and so life-changing, but they're still a significant goal.
And it's the exercise, say for that woman in particular, if it wasn't for the exercise and that particular goal, she probably just would have accepted that her hand would never open and just go on that. And that leads on to when people come to you, we've talked about fitness centres being hesitant and different things.
do you get many people, wheelchair users themselves, who are very hesitant to start exercising? Because I imagine confidence, as you said, is low, but they're kind of preconditioned from either their medical staff to take it easy, and very much their family members are like, oh, I don't think you should be doing that, I think you should take it easy. So do you get many of them that are actually apprehensive to come to the classes?
Yeah, because they doubt themselves. It's also a new experience. I mean, if someone's new to using a chair, because you don't feel confident. I was exactly the same when I first started using a chair. You know, I didn't like going out on my own, and then it would be the supermarket. And once I'd done the supermarket and that became okay, then I might consider going into town. So it's that progression. And I mean, for anybody going to a gym or a class for the first time, it's daunting. Yet alone when you don't feel confident that you're going to be able to do what might be expected of you. So yeah, there is that, and there is, as you say, people are brought up, especially with congenital conditions. I do think it's changing now. I think approaches are changing, but there was this very much, oh, you know, you're very delicate, you're fragile, you shouldn't be doing these things, and it stopped people actually learning what their abilities are and developing social skills and confidence from interacting and having the same sort of, you know, childhood and teenage life that you get if you didn't have a disability. And it's so hard anyway, because, you know, you've got extra hospital appointments, operations, you know, you don't know what somebody's childhood can be like, and missing out on the things that give you your character and allow you to take on adult life, you know, with sort of gusto is very, very difficult. But I think you have to encourage people to explore. If you took that same approach to saying we don't encourage children to stand up on their feet and learn to walk because they might fall over, we don't do that. We encourage them to take those first steps. And I think you have to do the same with a disability. You have to encourage people to push those boundaries and learn new skills and realise their own, you know, true potential.
And if you were to give advice to anyone, say, we'll start off first of all, a wheelchair user that's considering starting exercise, what advice would you give them to starting out?
I think it's a difficult one. If you're not confident, then try and establish a contact at a place that you want to go to. Have a meeting there, go in and discuss things. But also, you've got to say what you actually want, you know, and make sure you get what you want. Don't allow somebody to tell you what you can and can't do. But also look at yourself as an individual. If you're pushing yourself around in a chair, you're already doing exercise. You know, you're already capable of doing that. So now you want to take it up a level. You want to improve your ability so you can push better, more efficiently, improve your posture so your overall long-term health is better. And then from an instructor side, I think the biggest thing is seeing a chair as a separate item or a barrier, rather than seeing that chair as part of that person. You know, and if you see beyond the chair, we're actually no different. You look at the arms as legs instead, and think, you know, exactly the same in that perspective.
Brilliant. And we're getting to the end of the interview now. I know you're pressed for time, but if you could influence government policy, if you had that power, what would be the big change you would like to see happen at a fundamental level with exercise and disability perception?
That disability is part and parcel of fitness mainstream, that it isn't something that you can or can't deal with, or that you feel less passionate about. You've got to give it 100% to what you give everything else. That every single class, every single service that you offer must be multi-ability. If we do that from the onset, there's never going to be this issue. It's the same with society as a whole. If every single building was accessible, we wouldn't have issues with getting in and taking part in things. And I think that's what needs to happen. Qualifications need to change to embrace disability on a normal level rather than as a specialist thing. Because we need to view disability very, very differently now. And we've got to look at centres as a whole. They need to be accessible, not just through getting through a door and getting up and down the lift to the cafe. You need to be able to safely move around the gym, understanding that people at this height, you know, with resistance machines sticking out there going to bash your head. It's understanding the simple things that make life, you know, manageable and comfortable. And stop looking at cost. You know, if we looked at able-bodied people, we wouldn't say, "Oh, we're not going to put stairs in because they cost money. We're not going to put a lift in. We won't put an escalator in." And yet, when it comes to disability, money is usually used as a big issue, and I think it's a big excuse. And I think health and safety is used as a big excuse to get out of actually admitting we need to change.
Brilliant. And before we get to the final question, Kris, if people are looking to follow you or see your work, where are the best places to find you?
Our website, reallygoodfitness.com, and we're also on Facebook again at reallygoodfitness.com. They're the best places to follow what we're doing. We have got videos as well on YouTube demonstrating members, that come to the classes and how they take part in different activities, and that's the best means of sort of following, really.
Brilliant. And this is the final question then that I ask everyone. I'm very intrigued to hear your answer today. What would you say is the biggest mistake that you've made in your life that's changed the way you either approach your career or even your mindset and approach life as a whole?
My biggest mistake is one that I think a lot of people make in my position, and that is when something happens in life, such as my health and my disability. Obviously it has an impact on everybody, and we all deal with these types of problems differently. But my biggest mistake was to spend all my time trying to get back to who I was. It was never going to happen. So everything from then on was a failure, a negative issue, and you don't go anywhere. But as soon as you let go of the life you had and say, this is who I am now, this is what I can do, life is a completely different thing then. It's like starting again. Every door is open to you, and things actually that I do now that I would never have been able to do as an able-bodied person. So it's changing your perspective of looking forwards instead of looking back. And sometimes you have to mourn who you were, let them go, and then say, right, this is the new me. This is where I want to go, and make it happen. Believing in yourself is the most important thing.
I think that's a fantastic message, and that doesn't just apply to disabilities. Many people just, once there's a change in your circumstances in life, just realise this is what you have to do and plough forward now with that.
It's how you deal with it. There's it's same from a play that I watched years ago, and there's two forms of luck in life, good luck and bad luck. But it's how you deal with the luck you're given that determines its impact, and that is so important.
Brilliant. So it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you,
You're welcome.
Kris. Now we're going out to watch you do your thing now. Thank you so much for giving up your time and speaking with me.